This is Women for Gun Rights with your host Amanda Suffecool, part of the DC Project.
Here, we're going to go to there. I don't know. Maybe you can
That's
hear me
working.
now. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so folks, let me do that all again, because if you were seeing me but not hearing me, I don't know what that was. So I wanted to tell you about the amazing show that we're going to have today, and the fact that we are going to California for our Women for Gun Rights the episode, because there's just so much stuff that's going on there. But when you think gun rights, you don't think California, but when you think gunfight, you kind of do. So with us today is Gina Roberts, and Gina is the state leader, state delegate. No, yeah, state director. That would be the word. State director of the DC Project in California, and so Gina, welcome to Women for Gun Rights.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem at all. So tell folks, how did you get involved in the first place in gun rights?
Well, first of all, I've been shooting for like 55 years, right away after I started shooting, I joined the NRA because they kept track of all the competitive records, and I started getting the magazines, and I'm like, oh, this is 50 years ago. There were still people trying to take our rights away. So that was actually the thing that started me. Um, I got really, I shot a lot for the last 40 years, but in the last 10 years, pretty much, it's become, let me just say, a dominant force in my life, and kind of that whole desire to make sure our my grandkids have the grandkids and their kids have
Hmm.
the right to keep and bear arms. It became kind of very very much in the front of my mind, and when I joined the LGBT community, it kind of became obvious that the people in that community didn't have any, by choice in some cases, access to the ability to protect themselves. So that became kind of a thrust too. And um, I
So,
just, I'll tell you, what keeps me here is all the amazing people I work with.
well, there are some, and we'll do a couple of different things, so you get to see some of them. I've got some videos to pop in just so that you
Okay.
got an opportunity to kind of talk on that a little bit. But so you're from California. It's not necessarily a
Man.
gun positive state. You're a conservative, but you're a transgender. Wait, how does that all work? I mean, so guns and California is already a issue, or a thing, and then transgenders and guns is a thing, and then transgenders in California is a thing, and so you got a lot of things going on
Yeah.
there.
Well, as Diana puts it, I'm her unicorn, and
Okay.
I'm punching a lot of the buttons, and yeah, but it doesn't matter what I am, how I identify, anything like that. Deep down, it's about personal rights, and personal rights apply to everybody. And I got involved in the DC project because it was just such a cool way to bring those rights forward, and make a difference. And so that's where I started, pretty much. That's why I'm here.
That's it. So, since you say that you're the DC Project unicorn, let's throw that one on the table for a minute. There are a couple different organizations that are pro firearms and LGBT. So, So where do they come from? I mean, what's their backstory, I
Well,
guess, if you will?
and there's certainly good groups. I mean, Pink Pistols, Erin Paulette, happens to be another transgender woman, runs
Hmm.
Pink Pistols and Blazing Swords,
Yeah, Operation Blazing Sword. Yeah.
I mean, she does great work. It's different than I do, and I support them every way I can. It's a kind of a training, kind of a nationwide organization that tries to train LGBT people, and they're reasonably successful at it.
Hmm.
There's a couple other groups that are more liberal and slant. And I helped set somebody up in that a long time ago, and she said, "You want to be involved?" And I said, "Nope. I want you, the younger generation, involved in it because
Okay.
you know I want to retire someday." Yeah, that's going to happen. Um, and um, but yeah. I mean, there are other groups. There, what's really amazing, and I just did a thing with Chris Chang on Rob Beckman's show about diversity in 2A, and
Okay.
Chris Chang was on there, and so he's big at that. A couple of really cool ladies in the LGBT community, and Tony Simon. They put Tony in there to give us the straight guy to talk about. I guess I don't know, but it was all about diversity in the Second Amendment community, and so it I tell this all the time. I mean, yeah, sure, there's jerks in the community, but overall, you know, you're safe. You know what you're doing. You're in. I mean, there's
Hmm.
really not much resistance. Occasionally, you'll run into a jerk. You just outshoot them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I guess you are cool."
Okay. I guess I'll just pack up my range bag and go home, right?
And be quiet for a little bit.
Right.
And changed a few hearts and minds that way. It's worked.
Okay, so how do you persuade the LGBT community that guns are not their enemy? I mean, I'm sure that's a big mission that you've got within the state of California.
It is, but there's plenty of people out there that I mean, I'm involved in some conservative LGBT organizations like Lock Cabin Republicans, and they're they're a great seed source because
Mm-hmm.
I've taught some of them. They're holding shooting events, and I try to work with them anytime I can. And they go out and they get their friends, and they go out and they get their friends, and they go out. So it's expanding, and what's truly remarkable in my mind is yes, women are the number one uh, you know, actually the number one demographic right now for selling guns into. I just was reading something from NSSF,
Mm-hmm.
and right behind them are minorities, LGBT, people that traditionally weren't gun buyers, and a lot of these people are, I don't know if they're going to vote for the right people at the right time, but they're kind of getting a sense that maybe they do have a right to protect their lives. And one thing I love about the slogan from Pink Pistols is "Armed gays don't get bashed."
There you go. That makes sense. I mean, and it really is. It's whose job is to protect you. It's yours. So that's really where that is. And when you say vote for
Hold it,
the
let me dial 911.
right, yeah, wait right there, right. But when you say vote for the right people, I mean we're really talking Second Amendment rights, and it's there are people of both parties who are Second Amendment people because it's a constitutional issue. But there are also people of both parties who think that it is a partisan issue, and some for it, some against it, thinking it's a partisan issue. And so that's really one of the big 2A struggles, I think, is the whole Constitution versus politics.
Yeah, right. Your individual rights have nothing to do. I mean, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are restricting the government, not you. And the
Right.
whole idea of those things is those beautiful documents is to tell the government this is what you can't mess with. And
Right.
for some reason, certain it's become kind of a partisan issue because it's become a very partisan issue because one side tends to be very, we don't care about those rights. In fact, I think there's a president right now that said something about Well, the Second Amendment doesn't really mean what you think it means. He said it in a little bit different terminology than that, but um, so that kind of sets the stage that maybe that organization doesn't see our rights in the light that we believe they should be,
Mm-hmm.
and the other side often, I mean, there are turncoats in the other party too. And the Republicans have people that go, oh no, we need gun sense legislation, and I'm like, why don't you just enforce the laws you've got, and we'll see how that does.
Right.
And
Yeah, the
you
whole
know,
the whole common sense. Common sense to who and how are you?
yeah,
Yeah.
or lack thereof. Anyways,
Right. Not so common. Not so common.
exactly.
So,
Certainly can't argue with that comment.
you're a firearms instructor and you're a trainer and you teach in a variety of places. So I know that you're a front sight instructor. So how did that come about? What was your path to saying I not only like competing and shooting and target practicing and that, but now I want to be a trainer.
Um, it was kind of a natural progression. I mean, 30 years ago, I pretty much had every NRA certificate and license and license to practice, all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
to teach. And it was hard because I didn't do it professionally, and it's hard to keep your licenses up if you're not doing it all the time. And so I kind of let them lapse. And I'm now a much lower level, you know,
Mm-hmm.
official instructor, but I don't need to be to teach at front site. But it was the joy that I get out of teaching somebody to help somebody get to the point where they get that aha moment and they go, wow, I can do this. I can protect myself. I can be responsible for my own safety. And to me, the onion ninjas are starting in my house. I mean, it just
Mm-hmm.
emotionally is kind of the high point of my existence is to be able to give that gift to people. And Frontside was kind of a thing. Just a friend of mine turned me on to it. And for years, and most of my competition was long range, high power, a little three gun, but a three gun was different than it is now, and it was a lot less tactical, for lack of a better, a lot less gamey, and but so I didn't do much tactical, and when I went to front side, I said, they taught me defensive handgun, and I was like, honestly, I shot really well with the gun manipulation. I never ever realized that I couldn't reach the magazine release on my 1911 without breaking my grip. Never even occurred to me.
Mm-hmm.
It, I didn't need to because when you're shooting bullseye with a 1911, they don't care how you get the magazine out. It just drops on the table and you're good. And I mean, it's just funny. And then trying to run all the manipulations and the malfunction. Basically, I came home with a bloody left hand from just the sharp edges stripping all the skin off. But so I went through all their major classes: handgun, rifle, and shotgun, and a little full auto, more fun stuff in there too. And all the instructors were like bugging me. Well, when are you going to come and teach? When are you going to come and teach? And I was a little bit of a bump for front sight. They were kind of didn't quite know how to deal with me, but all the instructors were like, "Oh, Gina's like one of our best students. How are you gonna, we really
Mm-hmm.
need to hire her." So it actually took me 2 tries to get through their instructor development class, and first time I legitimately needed to be bumped out of it. I was not confident in my delivery. I had just transitioned, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I I wasn't comfortable standing. I'm still not comfortable standing in front of crowds. I just fake it better now than I used to. And so, but now whenever I go out there and work, and I don't work there as much as I'd like. It's 300 miles away. So, but I don't make it. I really don't make any money going there. The whole idea is to go there and teach people to shoot and not lose any money.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's truly a calling. It's not a job. It's a calling. You need to really have that feeling that you want to impart this knowledge to people, and I love it. And in town, I don't teach real classes in town. I'm more like I love to take new shooters and especially women and people out and get them used to setting a gun off, making an explosion 30 inches in front of their face and not jumping, there's nothing natural about setting an explosion off 30 inches in front of your face. And so the human body is a phenomenal organization or organism that has trained itself to respond to things. And you literally need to teach people to not respond the natural way to that. And so by teaching people, and I'll maybe shoot 50 rounds with them, but the whole idea is to get them to the point that they're a good student.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't, if you go into a class and you don't know how to handle your weapon, you don't know how to be safe, you don't know how to, do the three secrets, sight alignment, sight picture, and trigger control, you're starting from way lower, and you can't get past anywhere near as much out of the class as you can. And I love to turn them on. I have a bunch of friends of mine that are professional instructors in town, and I love to send them these ready students.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's part of our whole. We have a group in San Diego called San Diego County Gun Owners, and we do shooting socials, and basically that's the purpose. We'll get 25 to 15 to 25 people in a range down in Poway, and do that with them. Get them used to that. Get the fundamentals down. Get some light grip. I mean, we're not going to pound them on grip and stamp. We just don't want them to drop the gun. And but try to get them on target. Try to get them to stop doing stupid things with the trigger right up front. Because you start people out right, you don't have to untrain them and then retrain them. And I do that with one of my favorite groups. Is I was asked at one point in time to become the lead instructor for a Orthodox Jewish shooting group, and it's called Guns and Moses. And
Okay.
and the gentleman who asked me to do it was also on the board at the time of San Diego County Gun Owners. He said, "Gina, I want you to come and teach my people how to shoot." And I'm like, "Okay, okay. Two questions. One, I'm not Jewish, right?" And he's like, "I don't care." And he said, "And I have this kind of little bit different social status and thing." And he's like, "Yeah, if they have a problem with any of that, they won't learn, and they need to learn." And so, I mean, it was just done. It was gone. It was back to that, 2A is the best world in the world. And in fact, I would go and I'd set up the kosher breakfast while they did a couple of religious ceremonies, and it was just awesome. And one of my favorite things I still keep. In fact, I do it on Sunday again today. They have their shooting socials on Sunday morning because nobody else wants to use the range on Sunday morning.
Yep.
It works out.
Well, that's pretty cool. So
But there's
now,
the long.
you guys, there is down in California, I think it's San Diego, the gun ball. So you have an gun prom. Okay, you have an event that just sounds like so much fun that you're 2,000 miles away from me, and I am like I need to go there. So tell
All right,
folks
we will
about
get you on the.
it.
Yeah, it's our San Diego County Gun Owners. Its official name is the Second Amendment Appreciation Dinner, or Celebration Dinner. And it was funny because I was standing next to Michael Schwartz, who's our glorious leader of San Diego County Gun Owners. We were all dressed up to the nines, and all these people come in, and they're all usually you see them as range rats. They're all hair's all mashed down, or all front. The funniest part of this thing is to look at people and try to realize who they are. Because they don't look anything like they do on the range, and unfortunately, I don't change that much. I kind of stick out in the crowd, so everybody knows who I am. But so anyways, and some lady came up and said, "Oh, this is just like prom." And Michael Schwartz and I looked at each other, and I mean, he literally pulled his phone out and bought gunprom.com right there.
Right then.
And literally, if you type www or gunprom.com, you get the scoop on it. And unfortunately, this year will be the first one I miss because it's when our DCProject summit is.
Oh,
It's a
okay. So
Saturday
it's
night.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to be sad on Saturday night. Well, not too sad, but
Oh,
I'm donating a couple guns and things so they can raffle them off. And it's basically our major fundraiser every year. And, we make, 70, 80,000 bucks a year out of it. So it's an
that's pretty
awesome event.
amazing. That is pretty amazing. Yeah, I just you see the pictures and it's like, oh, that it's like my people, my place.
Yeah.
It's everything. It just looks so much fun. That
Yeah.
kind of
I
thing.
actually tried to get Diana to move the summit here this year and have Saturday night event be gun prom, but we're going to try again next
We'll
year.
try again next year. That would be fabulous. That really would be
The problem
fabulous.
is that she got a really good deal on lodging and things in Florida this year. So,
Right, and trying to figure out where to a hub and airlines, and you're trying to move 50 women from across the country somewhere, but it's probably
everybody
no
flies to San Diego, though.
yeah, it's probably no more of an issue to go to San Diego than it is to go to Florida. So, when you
Yeah,
start to look at
especially Gainesville, Florida.
right, yeah, there is that. So, speaking of Diana, I want to run this for you because
Okay.
this is a video that she just put together that I think it has some meaning, and then I'd like to talk about it. Okay? So, here we
I'll be
go.
happy to watch.
Looting and killing and a defund the police campaign. More and more Americans are waking up to the importance of the Second Amendment and are buying guns for the first time to protect themselves and their families. The DC Project Women for Gun Rights wants to encourage existing and new gun owners to consider who they are electing to represent them in the upcoming election. Know where the candidates stand on the Second Amendment because the Second protects all of the rest.
So, what do you think of that as a 30-second commercial?
That's pretty amazing. She did a very good job. Diane has really grown into the spokesperson arena. Testifying in front of Congress a couple of times, I guess, hones those skills pretty quickly. And it's something she's totally passionate about, and spreads that passion to us. And there go those onion ninjas again.
There you go. Yeah, it's amazing watching her in action, and then periodically you'll turn on the news and there she is again. And so it
And then you
just
go to a
makes
match and she smokes you.
right. And you see her create this relationship where all of us then want to step up and keep up, if you will. And so you start to see things happening in every state because they see the model and they see the action and they see things happening on different levels and in different states. So the gun vote, what do you think, in your opinion, with this big growth in women and women buying guns and the 2020, the pickup of the amount of guns that they sold and all of that. So what do you think that that's going to do when it comes to the next couple of elections? Do you think that those people who bought guns are going to kind of get the dynamic that they bought a gun for their safety and their security, and their votes may counter that?
That's actually a very fundamental question. And unfortunately, I've run into a lot of people that vote anti-gun because they like other policies, and yeah, in fact, one of our delegates said this. Well, I'd rather vote for all the right policies and try to fix the Second Amendment policy. And I'm like, no, that's probably not going to happen because you know they're so set on it. I think the current environment where David Shipman was shot down,
Mm-hmm.
bad terminology, but
Right.
basically his nomination being pulled was probably the biggest pro-gun victory we've had in a long time, especially with this administration. Um, Hopefully, and the problem is these a lot of the new gun buyers, and I've talked with some of them just kind of off the head, and you know, I was actually at the beginning of COVID, I was helping a friend of mine basically control traffic into his store because he was
Mm-hmm.
getting, I mean, he'd have 3 hours with a line, or more than that, he had 8 hours
Yeah.
with a line. And I basically would count people and say, start going doing ID checks and stuff in advance just so that they didn't stand in line for 8 hours. Um, but I was just talking to a lot of people, and they really didn't have that correlation in their head about, um, vote. I would
Mm-hmm.
always, the good news is they'd walk away from me understanding that correlation, but it had absolutely nothing solid in their minds at the time we started talking. And, and it's kind of I don't want to say cognitive dissonance, but it really is. It's like, the way that the media portrays, us and gun owners is people just want to hide. I have people in the LGBT community that owns guns that say if I say anything that they own guns, they'll, they'll have to leave the community. They'll have to do all
Yeah.
sorts of other stuff. And in fact, I'm known as one of my best friends in the community who is also we've done security together at least once, and we think a lot alike. Um, she's associated with Gina, the gun girl, and she's like, yeah, I am cool, yeah, we've never actually gone shooting together, but because we're friends, she's associated that way, and it's this huge hill we need to push back on, and
Mm-hmm.
and shows anything that your radio show and all the other efforts that you make to try to get the information out to the public in alternative media outlets. And I saw Newsmax was on one of your opening things, and
Mm-hmm.
some of these alternate media outlets are really our only hope to try to change that narrative, other than one-on-one conversations. And one-on-one conversations are the best. You just have to pick your targets because if you go up to a demand action person, and I actually have a Kiwanis club that I'm doing some child safety, gun safety stuff with, and I
Mm-hmm.
actually reached out to moms, and I call them the Brady Bunch, and said, I want you to participate in this because I want it to be a consensus approach so that we can pass it through another completely unfiltered environment so that it can get out to hospitals and get out to people about, we don't teach it in school anymore. If you see a gun on the street, kids have no idea. It's like, oh, cool. That's the same thing that's on my video game that I can pop at people and they all get up at the end when I turn the video game on. And I'm like, we've just done such a good job of desensitizing people on the value of life that it's frightening. And so again, that one-on-one contact, going in and talking to anti-gun legislators is, you're not going to change their mind, but maybe you get them to think a little bit differently. Um, I it's fun. What's one cool thing? I love all the Congress people that have transgender flags outside their office. I walk in, they're like, "Oh, hi, let's talk about the Second Amendment," and they're all like, you
Right.
know,
That wasn't the conversation I wanted to have with you, Gina.
right, and
I wanted to have the easy conversation, not the hard
right, and,
conversation.
and so
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'm transgendered, and maybe I'd like to protect myself along with my family and everybody else, but you want to take that right away from me. Why are we in this position together? And
Right.
oh, and you pay. I'm sorry, I pay for armed security for you. You know,
Right. I
that's
mean,
just one of those eye rolling
so
opportunities.
do you think that the LGBT community has a bigger need for personal protection and security? Do you think that they are singled out and victimized because of who they are? And
Um,
and then if that's the case, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, why what are they doing? What steps are they taking?
well, it's really funny because I use funny completely loosely in this term. They're like way up there in the super liberal defund the police. You know, you don't need a gun. The police will protect you. And there is very rare that they don't reach out. In fact, I even have having Republican friends that are,
Oops.
and I'm afraid of.
Go back and say that again. You locked
I'm
up for a
afraid of that
second.
gun.
So you locked up for a second.
Oh,
You say you have log cabin Republican friends who.
I have Republican log cabin LGBT friends that
Okay.
are, even though they're very pro 2A, have never been exposed to a shooting, never handled a gun. And I said, oh, I can fix that. But it's it's kind of a, in California especially, there is absolutely no positive slant put on gun ownership in California, and it's all has to be at the one-on-one level, the small group level, in San Diego County gun owners, we now have almost 3,000. We have 3,000 members now, and so finally, some of the politicians are going, oh, no, maybe you can affect elections. Maybe you can make a difference.
Maybe.
And so, and the California Rifle and Pistol Association are trying to form county-wide organizations because the people that are elected at San Diego City Council or something like that end up in the state legislature. It's like a stepping block. And if you let them get past you now, they're going to be harder to get rid of later. And to change their dogma though is unbelievably difficult, especially in California, because the Democratic Party here is, if you're not following our dogma 100%, we will not support you, and if you vote against us, you will never get reelected. Sometimes I kind of wish the Republican Party would do that, but we do allow a little bit of dissension because we're kind of into that freedom thing, it's unfortunately frustrating because lots of times we'll end up with 2 or 3 Republicans running against 1 Democrat. Let's guess who's going to win that one.
Right. Yeah, because you guys run an election in a completely different manner. I mean, most states have a primary and then they have a one-on-one, but you don't do that.
We do have a primary.
Right?
We do. It's called a primary, but it's actually called the jungle primary. Because you run the primary, and it'll happen in March. And actually, the next one happens in June next year, 2022, for the congressional election. But on presidential years, it happens in March because California wanted to be able to affect the conventions more and whatever.
So how does a jungle primary work?
Okay, what happens is everybody's hat goes in on the ballot. Everybody can apply. There's no you can designate a party, but the top 2 vote getters go to the final election. So you could end up with 2 Democrats. You could end up with 2 Republicans. You could end up with what you're not going to end up with is anybody from the Green Party or anybody from any of the smaller parties because they have no voice anymore. They're
just not
basically
big enough.
completely cut out of it. And if I were them, I'd be suing the daylights out of the state, except for they're small, and because they are completely shut out of the election process. And whereas before, when you had regular primaries, they would appear on the final ballot. You'd have them as a choice. This was another thing that our friend Arnold Schwarzenegger helped push through. And the whole idea was to try to get more moderate candidates, to run in the different parties. But it failed miserably. And what's interesting is I think the Democrats don't like it much better than we do because they end up spending a lot of money fighting Democrats, fighting against themselves. And so anybody with their eyes open would go, this is a bad idea. But so that's one of our focuses to get rid of in the next 10 years.
Well, it makes California unique in that manner. But I want to.
There's actually one other state.
One other? Well, still okay. So
I believe
4%. It's there. So, back to not to belabor a point, but the LGBT community and what can we do to cause them to see that we value their lives, their parents value their lives, their loved ones value their lives. Why don't they stand up to protect themselves so that they're still here? I mean, any group or population that is victimized solely because of the color of their skin, the color of their hair, the way that they look, the way that they dress, the way that they talk, the way that they walk, it should not be acceptable. And personal protection is like the first line in that. And so then just saying I'm not going to, it's so counter to me to, kind of to a mother's love to say, okay, well, because you're different, but we're not going to defend.
Well, the issue really is that they 100% believe that the police will protect them, and they're taking the approach, and I'm on like human relations commissions and things like that, of trying to make everybody, I mean, trying to legislate in kindness, basically, and
Yeah.
and treating people correctly, and I keep looking at them like, everybody that says, oh, let's take the guns away, I said, well, just you, I'd be interested. Just tell me how you're going to get the criminals to give them up. But there's just like this mindset that they have no responsibility for themselves for anything. I mean, look at the whole entitlement generation. And, it's like, oh, I'm going to be protected, though society owes me a living. Society will take care of me. And I don't have to be able to protect myself. And in fact, that makes me a bad person because I might actually hurt somebody that's trying to kill me. I have heard that word for word, that somebody actually, I actually posted something one time on an LGBT bulletin board that said, so what is more righteous, having Matthew, I don't remember what his name was, the kid that was, gay kid that was wrapped in barbed wire on a barbed wire fence and shot out in the middle of nowhere. And I think it was Colorado, but it was like 30 years ago. And my comment is, why is that more morally righteous than two dead scumbags sitting on, that did that to him? Why is that? Why do we accept that trauma into our society, that that just enabling that because you're not doing anything to fight it? I mean, it's the same problem of, the whole concept of, everybody went freako in the liberal world about Texas and open carry. Oh, it's going to be gunfights in the street and things like that. And yeah, no. And I mean, there's been, like, of course, as we expected, zero rise in gun related crime in Texas since that happened. In fact, it's probably going to go the other way at some point in time. The criminals figured out that, Texas isn't a good place to be anymore to do crime. They'll come to California. Oh boy, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Because it's funny because California's actually got some fairly decent castle doctrine laws and things like that. But if you kill somebody in a self-defense, you're going to jail. That's all there is to it. It may not be, for life sentence, but you're going to jail. Your life will change completely. And even if you win that, you're going to lose the civil lawsuit. Because the courts are just that screwed up. And so they've stacked the deck so hard against people being able to protect themselves that you need just crazy people like me that say, I'm just not going to let anybody hurt anybody else anymore because nobody's counting on me. I don't have to bring a paycheck home to feed my family anymore. So, so that's like a level of freedom. But, you asked about just in the LGBT community. There is no sense of urgency in that response. there's no, I don't have to worry about this. Society's going to take care of me. And, the cops that, I don't want, they abuse me every time they come and see me, but they'll take care of me. They'll make sure that, I hear these stories about everybody in any community that how horribly the cops are treated. I was in the street racer community when I was in high school. You talk about getting pulled over a lot. you yeah, and I was from the wrong side of the tracks in the little town I lived in too. So, you know, it so I have some understanding in how you interact with cops, and I have the utmost respect for them. I've been teaching for the last couple of days, and to give you a hint, there's one job that would even be worse than teaching, and it's being a cop. I can't even imagine dealing with people at that level.
Well, there's
I'm
so
trying
much,
to be nice to kids.
yeah, there's so much defund the police, and then now all of a sudden they're changing the whole demeanor to that because they're saying that's not really what we meant.
Right.
But
Oh, let's see. Crime's going up. Violence
right,
is going up.
I mean,
But,
and no matter
no,
what, if they have a problem with the police taking away their training dollars is like counterintuitive. So it's going to be a ever changing battle. But hey,
yeah,
we've got another video that I'd like you to watch, and let's talk about it. It's a little longer, but once again, it's Diana, and so here we
she's
go.
getting awful worthy.
She is. She really is. She's pretty amazing.
We're wrapping up our countdown with story number 1. Shots for gun control. Now, President Biden and congressional Democrats aiming for stricter gun legislation in the wake of tragic shootings. However, as our panel of experts pointed out earlier in the show, these laws may very well do nothing to prevent those tragedies. And tonight, we're helping you out, and we're helping you take your personal safety into your own hands with our next guest, Diana Muller. She is a former Tulsa police officer and a professional shooter. Thank you so much for joining us, Diana. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
So what's the number one thing that you would say to folks at home watching all of these shootings, violent attacks happening? What can they do to protect themselves?
Well, as a police officer for 22 years, I realized that, I usually showed up after the fact. So people really do need to understand that they can take their own safety into their own hands. And if 2020 has taught us nothing else, it's that we are our own first responder. So if they choose not to carry, obviously these gun-free zones, I believe these gun-free zones are detrimental and they kill. They are allowing crazy people to take advantage of law-abiding citizens that leave their guns at home or in their cars. But if they don't want to carry, there are some things that you can do. When we grew up, CPR was the biggest craze, but right now I believe that tourniquets should be in every man, woman, and child's backpack. They're not heavy, they're not difficult to use, and if anything that the Pulse nightclub shooting told us, it was that you can save yourselves. A lot of those people could have been saved if people had tourniquets and had the knowledge to use them.
Wow. So I wanted to get your take on one thing. We found out yesterday that the NYPD would not have liability insurance anymore. I know that we've seen over the last year much more because lawmakers have really tied police departments' hands, much more kind of reactive policing. What will that end up doing to police forces around the country if they will not be protected by their city?
Well, it's called qualified immunity, and really, if police departments like New York, they follow New York's lead and they get rid of qualified immunity, I believe that your best police officers, your most compassionate police officers, anybody that has any intelligence is going to walk away from that job because it's just too dangerous, not in a physical sense, but in a financial sense, and it creates so much liability. And I've had arguments with people on the Second Amendment advocacy side of, that police officers shouldn't have special protection, that citizens don't. But we're asking police officers to go into battle, basically. We're asking police officers to take the most dangerous criminals off of the street, and it would be lawsuit heaven for these people if they didn't have qualified immunity.
Yeah. Diana Muller, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And all your years, 25 years serving in the police department in Tulsa. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
So she kind of says the same stuff that you and I were saying, I would think. I don't know that there was anything.
I love my boss.
Isn't she amazing? But I don't think that there was anything additional except for tourniquets. So have you taken any of the Stop the Bleed classes? Do you share that message?
Oh, absolutely. I've been trained in first aid and way back, and I just learned CPR, and I'm current on that. And as a matter of fact, our girl in a gun group in San Marcos had a Stop the Bleed class the other night. And I mean, the ability to, again, be there before the first responders. I mean, if you can bleed out in 3 minutes, and I live in LA Center, it's a beautiful place. I'm on the fire board. The fire department is absolutely amazing, but it's 12 minutes away, so people need to be able to, again, take responsibility for their own safety. And I mean, that's just one more facet of it. The whole, Stop the Bleed thing is awesome. It's funny that you mentioned Pulse, because Pulse was kind of one of the things that really got me involved in teaching the LGBT community and trying to get them out of it. And one of the things I always like to say about that was, when that happened, I had 20 total professional firearms instructors in San Diego come to a couple other people and say, "You put people together, I'll teach them for free." And that was pretty darn. There's those ninjas again.
That's pretty amazing.
I mean, absolutely amazing. And maybe we ought to do the same thing with Stop the Bleed. We had a lady that came down to teach this group. She said she's taught 6,500 people, I think it is, in the kind of the a lot of gun groups, a lot of semi first responder people that don't necessarily show up for medical care to be the medical professionals, but if you come in and somebody's squirting blood out, pretty good chance they're going to be dead in a couple of minutes if you don't do something about that problem. And it's interesting how the philosophy of tourniquets has changed so radically in the last 50 years too. It used to be that, you can't leave it on more than 5 minutes, or they're going to cut the limb off. And now it's like the medical professionals like, just leave it on. We'll take care of it. We can, it's much easier to revitalize that limb than it is to, put the blood back in the people that caused them to die. And I think that there's a huge amount of training that has happened within the medical community on the ability to respond to, and I'm not just saying gunshot wounds, but I'm talking any major trauma.
Major trauma.
I mean, one of the biggest problems that I found, my son fell off the helicopter and had TBI, traumatic brain injury. And one of the things that saved his existence was the fact that our soldiers, when they go overseas now, or they're in a war, they have all this protective equipment and they survive now, even explosions and things like that. So the military has gotten really good, and the medical community has gotten really good at treating things like traumatic brain injuries, because people actually live through it now. It used to be terminal, and so it's proved to the world basically of just how important immediate on the scene medical response is. And as a concerned citizen, let's see, I actually just walked in and cleaned my car out, and I put my tourniquet on my back in my purse in my room, because I had taken it into that class and it was out of my purse. And so I carry one in my purse, and carry one in my backpack, and I carry, just because, if you need it, you need it. If you don't have it, you don't got one. And, you can do it with a belt. You can do it if, people don't wear belts anymore. People don't wear neckties anymore. That used to be a great source of fairly high tensile, silk ties. Man, try to break a silk tie. It's pretty good material. And, but, the tourniquets they have now are easy to use. They're simple, and they save lives. And I think
They really
that whole
do.
process.
And
Do I ever want?
do you
I
want to
don't
go
ever want
through
to
it?
see somebody do one.
Yeah. Have you? I've taken a couple classes where they put a tourniquet on you, and it's like, ouch, that hurts. But I can imagine that the alternative is way worse. But
Yeah.
so I've taken classes on the alternatives to tourniquets. Though, like you, I actually have two tourniquet packs in my car. One that's always in the back, and one that if I'm going and doing construction or if I'm going to the range or whatever, there's a more complete kit that just resides behind my driver's seat, for that reason.
Yep. I have a go bag in every vehicle. And,
Right.
that's the only way you make sure that you have what you need when you're where you're at. It's like I, you've
Yeah.
got to be prepared. I mean, I used to be a scout, and the terminology was be prepared, and it's stuck.
Well, you are your own first responder, and so you've got to look at the likelihood of something happening. What would that be, and how would that be, and what can you do to offset it or stop it? So, to me, a firearm is one of the tools. Medical training and medical kit is another one of those tools, and there's others. So, yeah, it's whose job is it to protect you? And it is your job or my job, when you're really talking about it from that aspect. So as we get close to the end of the show here, Gina, what things would you like to tell our listening audience about the DC Project, about you, about California, about LGBT and guns, whatever?
This is the open mic session.
Yes.
As if I haven't had that all along.
Right.
Well, one thing, California supposedly when they open their next legislative session, which is in end of November, no, beginning of November, we will again be able to do public comment. California has not allowed people into the Capitol for 18 months now. So it's a little, you can do Zoom testimony. There's just something about looking the legislator in the eye and standing in their office and saying, "You got this story wrong." You need that. So supporting organizations, and the DC Project is really amazing in terms of just because of our focus, just because of the fact that it's all about women for gun rights and gun rights for everybody, not just for women. I mean, I'm a prime example. I walked into the DC Project the first time. I think you were there at that dinner, and I was just absorbed into this organization immediately. And and handed a mic and say, "Hey, tell us about yourself." And I'm like, yeah. uh, and then I guess I got over my shyness because you guys liked me anyway. But yeah, and I was fortunate that I was able to go to the rally the next day because I happened to be in DC for an LGBT thing. I was going to see the Department of Education. So, use your advocacy wherever you need to. The world does not change unless you stand up. And unfortunately, the opponents of our rights seem to have unlimited resources. And so donate to the people that are going to protect your rights. It takes money. For years, I had a good enough job that I could, fly myself to DC 4 or 5 times a year, or go to Sacramento and glare at people. Now it's harder for me to do that. And fortunately, I've been able to have the resources of the group to help a little bit. So that's a primary thing. And the thing I'm trying to make a point of to LGBT people is marginalizing yourself. Stop being a marginalized society. Be part of out there. Stop being a victim. And the whole victimhood mentality, and I'm just going to use the term liberal society thing. It's like, how many labels can I put on myself so that I become a bigger and bigger victim? Um, we don't need that. We need to empower people. We need to give them the opportunity to be all that they can do. I hate to quote that old army recruiting poster, but you know, be all that you can be is a really amazing concept. And we tend to, and the LGBT people tend to teach people, instead of how to go out and get a job, how to stand up for your own rights, how to be, a strong individual and be empowered. We teach them how to go get welfare. We teach them how to get disability. We teach them all this other stuff that makes them was just less empowered and more dependent. And unfortunately, I think part of our the government philosophy right now is to get people to be more dependent on government. Not going to work for me. First of all, I figure I'm going to live about another 100 years, but by then everything will be straightened out, right? My kids swear I'm not going to die, so I like their thinking. But so stop being a victim. Stand up for yourself. Be the person that takes responsibility for everything in your life. If you can't find a job, it's not because you're LGBT. Right now, if you're breathing, you can find a job. Uh, there's, there's like 15,000 or 100,000 job openings in San Diego County right now that they can't fill because there's people standing there going, "Oh, I don't want to work. I'm making all this money on unemployment. I don't need to work, and I might get COVID." And yeah, I mean, I've been working as a substitute teacher in Valley Center schools because they can't hire anybody. They hired me. What can I say? Anyway, and but it's, be responsible, be who you are, stand up to the world. You have nothing, absolutely nothing to be ashamed of if you're who you are, and nobody keep this. This is a Gina mantra. Nobody can disrespect you that you don't respect. So if somebody comes up to you and says something about you and you have no respect for them whatsoever, what they say does nothing to you. It's just their opinion, which means zero. And so I have a great time with that. Somebody will come up and they'll start laying some weird stuff on me, and I've literally at times walked away laughing at them. That really deflates them. But it and reach out to people around you. Empower them, give them the opportunity. The thing about the DC project that's always just amazed me. You've got 50 type A ladies that have exactly they all know exactly what they want to do, exactly how to do it, and somehow or another we all work together and get stuff done. And because we're focused, we are, and we empower each other. It's every time I've ever asked for information, I put it out on our website and our Facebook, and I get pounded with data. It's like, here's all the stuff you need, and so that kind of a support network is what the world needs. It's what, and it doesn't matter if it's what community that's in. It just needs to be there for people to, just really make things happen in their lives. And there's nobody responsible for your life more than you.
That's amazing, Gina. Well, we're going to have to end right there, but that's a great ending for that. So, folks, if you want to follow Gina's lead and donate to the DC Project, you can go to dcproject.info. There are T-shirts for sale. There's all kinds of stuff, but you can also just make a direct donation for the work that they do. So, as Gina had said, DC Project helps cover some of the costs to get our delegates from California to Washington, D.C., to get them to the summit, to learn how to be better delegates, those types of things. The DC Project is doing amazing work, and with your help and with my help and with Gina's help and and just all together, we can make this possible. So thanks a lot, and we'll catch you all next week. So this is Amanda Suffecool, Women for Gun Rights, with my so welcome guest, Gina Roberts from California. We'll see ya next Friday.
Thank you.